welcome back to another episode of the Hominist Podcast.
Woohoo!
Okay, so we know it's been a really long time since the last time we uploaded. But we are finally back. Lots of changes since the last episode. We both graduated high school. Shred's going off to college.
Off to the UK. Quite excited, but But also with those changes, we've come up with changes for the podcast. We want to actually go through with the podcast and make it a consistent kind of thing. And we ended up figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, hopefully it works. But we kind of came up with a more structured approach to the podcast, so we're not just yapping for 30 minutes. But yeah, Shred, do you want to introduce the structure?
Of course. So we have some segment ideas. We're thinking every episode we have a word of the day, humanities in the news, and the news would be what the basic, the premise of the episode for that day, and we talk about some sort of paradox at the end of the podcast. Hopefully one day we can figure out how to integrate music into our podcast, because that's something you and I have both really bonded over. And it would be really good to be able to talk about music. But so far we have the idea of word of the day, humanities in news, and paradox discussion. But we're also thinking of introducing special episodes. Yeah,
the special episodes is I think we're gonna do those maybe once in a blue moon. Once in a while, but
we're yet to figure out exactly how the upload schedule is. We know we're gonna make Sunday uploads every other week, but when the special episodes come up, that's only for the special episodes to know. But our special episodes will be cases.
We will have cases, maybe guest speakers, but you know what? That's for the future. I think we've yapped enough about the new structure. Let's get into today's episode. So today we were going to be talking a little bit about personality tests and ways of classifying human nature and human personalities into specific categories. Just to begin, we're going to start with the word of the day, which is physiognomy. I think that's how you pronounce it.
No, did we not check the pronunciation before?
Okay, just for context,
hold on,
it's spelled Physiognomy. Physiognomy.
Oh yeah, physiognomy. That's what.
Okay, perfect.
Guys, we did research a lot before the podcast. We just happened to forget the little things. It's okay.
But basically, physiognomy is defined as judging people based solely off of appearance and looks. And I think that ties in really well with what we're going to be discussing today, in a kind of non-conventional way, because it's kind of opposite to what we're going to be talking about.
I guess. In the research you mentioned that there's no specific word for judging someone based on the personality, but could you... I don't know, because I think that could just be because we just assume that judging someone based on the personality is just the default of how we perceive someone.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of what I was going to talk about. Is that it's really interesting that there is a specific word for judging people based solely off of appearance and looks, but there isn't a defined word in the dictionary for judging people based on personality, even though that's it's been so integral to our self-perception and the way we perceive others and those around us. And there are words like characterology, which is studying people's personalities, but judging people based off their personalities is, I think, a slightly different concept, and there isn't a word specifically for that.
Sorry, I wanted to ask about the actual word. Is there like a connotation behind it? Because I was like thinking, because okay, fine, judging people based off of personality, you have lots of words, but that's just literally just judgment
Right.
analysis. Or like, there's a lot of words you can like use. Maybe it doesn't directly mean basing off of personality, but there's a lot of words you would use in
Yeah.
that context. But they all have like different
Yeah.
connotations. Like some could mean like, oh, it's like rather analysis, which is like an objective kind of truth. But judging has the connotation that's
Yeah.
negative.
I think that I think we're gonna delve a bit more into this when we go into the next section, which is based on the article. But basically, physiognomy is, I think it was a concept that was more prevalent in the ancient times, like 5th and like the 4th century kind of BCE, and basically it's how how in the olden days people used to like judge people based off how they look, like in terms of marriage, or I don't know, like judging like based on their like worthiness for a certain like role or something like that. Like people didn't really care about personality. Like, well, I mean, yes they did, but it was like a huge part of like the deciding factor was usually like the physiognomy. And so I think that's kind of what it means, like a negative or well, to be fair, at the time it was a norm, so I don't necessarily think there was a negative connotation to it. But in today's context, like in the modern context, I do think it might have a bit of a negative connotation towards it. But at the same time, I think it's mostly just a scientific or like a more official term for defining, judging people based solely off their looks. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, how does that tie into our episode today, Mom?
Okay, so I wanna just for context, our next segment is called Humanities in the News, and it's kind of a really broad segment where we pick specific news articles or articles, like really interesting articles that we've read that are happening at the moment, like in current affairs, and kind of relate that back to humanities and analyze it and discuss it from that point of view. So I would like to begin by asking you, Srividya, do you think you are an extrovert or an introvert, and why?
Oh, I see. I don't know. There's another one like ambivert or something. I feel like I'm more that because it's just like I can't go, and I'm not like an extreme introvert nor am I an extreme extrovert, but there's like a lot of people I guess would describe me as an introvert because I won't talk a lot unless I am very comfortable with you. Because there have been people that I've known personally for like 6 years, but I've only really talked to them like after the 6 years when I was like forced to talk to them. I was just like, oh, that's right. But I don't warm up to people that easy, but I do try and talk to other people as much as I can.
Yeah.
So I guess like I'm like dead in themselves.
Right. Yeah. And do you think that like using these 3 terms like introvert, extrovert, or ambivert is enough to kind of capture your whole personality, or like I don't know, like how you interact with people?
Oh, Malcolm's getting like here. Personally, I don't really have another. I don't think there is another way I can describe myself. But I think there could be more ways to describe like I guess your vertedness.
Your vertedness.
Your vertedness.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because it's just like people function differently, and not everyone can be classified as.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So maybe.
I think. Okay, yeah. So maybe. Okay, before I get into that, I think that I would say that I used to say that I'm a textbook introvert, right? That like based on like the actual like definition, whatever that is, I don't know. But basically like I'm like kind of avoid social situations if I have to, and I gain energy from being by myself instead of being around others. But so when I went to UWC in Costa Rica and stayed there for 2 years, I feel like that really changed my perspective a lot, because you're living with your entire like class, and you were like surrounded by people your age all the time, and like essentially without a lack of privacy, because I had my first year I had 3 roommates, and my second year I had 1 roommate, so there's like always someone there, you know. And I kind of realized that it's so much more complicated than that, and I feel like a spectrum of like introvert, extrovert, or like ambivert is not enough to describe like the way that I interact with people. And I just feel like it's kind of oversimplifying it too much. And so that brings me to how that's like using the spectrum is not enough to describe some people. And so recently this New York psychiatrist, Dr. Rami Kaminsky, coined this new term called introvert. And this might have come up on some of you guys' Instagram For You pages. But
it might have come up on mine
yeah,
as well,
me too, perhaps. But yeah, so introvert is kind of a word that a term that describes somebody that doesn't like fit into introvert, extrovert, ambivert. It's like introvert. I don't know. Me personally, I think it's kind of. I mean, I don't really like this term. I think it's kind of stupid, frankly. But yeah, what do you think?
We got this. Okay, wait, what does it mean? Like, hold on. I think I wrote it down. Oh yeah, it's just people who are not like communal and they're more individualistic. I actually was reading about this and I came across a quote. But I wrote it down, but I can't find it.
Do better.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I did come across a quote and I did try to write down the entire quote, but I kind of like got lazy. So the end of it is not like quoted, but it's like the Dr. Kaminsky, he says like they do not have to withdraw from the group in order to recharge, as it is not the group that is draining, but the group think. So it's just like, I guess that means you know, it's just like when you come across like groups of people with like similar opinions or similar ideas, and just indulging in their thoughts together, that is what could be draining, rather than like just having people around you. And I feel like I do understand what it is. Well, if I understood it correctly, of course. But I don't know, like you could also just argue that I would argue that this is also part of introvert.
I do agree, but at the same time I was actually going to say something different. I was going to say that I think that that's something that both introverts and extroverts do. I think that's just a part of human nature. Like, do you ever feel this thing like where you're with like different friend groups, you use different personalities? Like you use like personality, like when you accidentally use personality A with friend group B. It's like, and it's like you change so much like with different friend groups, and I think that kind of ties into like finding the people, like the right kind of people with the similar mindsets that don't drain you as much. So I don't know, I feel like the way that he's defining it is kind of defining something that everybody does, but then at the same time that's like, this is me speaking from like my very limited bubble of like people that I know and like talk to. So yeah, I don't know.
No, yeah. I don't feel educated enough to like, you know, just supposed to be like, not right. But it's also like I do have my doubts. But what you describe, like the whole friend group A with the it's personality A with the friend group B thing, that's social identity theory. And I wanted to get into that, but like we can get into that a bit more later on. But it's just basically the gist of it is, you're not going to be the same exact person with everyone. You're going to have a different identity. But it doesn't mean everything about you changes and you don't feel like you're not yourself. It's just how you interact with other people. But yeah, we'll get into that a little later on.
So, moving on from the introvert thing, you kind of see how we're tying everything together. But basically, this episode was kind of inspired by this article that the both of us read about how personality types and like personality tests have been around like since literally forever. So this article was on BBC, by the way, and it's, to kind of summarize it, talks about the earliest kind of personality tests that we had, personality types, and how that's evolved throughout time until like today's Myers-Briggs test and the Big Five and things like that. So essentially, the first documented personality tests were in ancient Greece from like the 4th or 5th century BCE. So Empedocles proposed the 4 elements like earth, water, air, and fire as the building blocks of nature, and then later on Hippocrates linked these to 4 bodily humors, which kind of developed into humoral theory, which is the first kind of official way of defining personalities. And so the 4 bodily humors were yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, and blood, and each of these are tied to different personality traits and health, and there's different, well, at the time, biological ways that you could change those or alter those. And yeah, do you want to get into that? I saw you had done a lot of research on that.
But yeah, so I was looking at it because the next one you mentioned is Galen's 2nd century CE, where he codified the theory into 4 temperaments: choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic.
Yeah.
Phlegmatic. I say
yeah. This is phlegmatic.
That's just so weird. Anyway, phlegmatic and something.
Yeah.
But I saw that word and I was like, wait, that means blood, because like, you know, you go to French. But yes, I saw that and I was just like, oh, okay, wait, that's weird because like the sanguine, but there's blood in the earlier one, the 4 bodily humors. So I looked into that. Yellow bile is choleric, and that relates to anger. Black bile is melancholic, which is depressive. Phlegm is, phlegmatic, and that's calm. And blood is sanguine, and that's cheerful. And so the humorism just kind of focuses on the fluids and like the good and bad mixing of it, which is like if you have more yellow bile, I don't remember exactly how it was. I think it was like if you have more yellow bile in your system or something.
It was kind of like what flows through your body more. Yeah.
You tend to be an angrier person. I guess I just have a lot of phlegm because like I'm calm. Monk.
Love that for you. I think some others would beg to differ, but sure.
Okay, I dare you to find that. But anyway, so it was just like that's really interesting because this was about like imbalances in our body, which kind of end up showing off certain personality traits, which, like we talked about this earlier, this sort of relates to Ayurveda. Because that's something we're both really familiar with. Because I know I went through a couple of Ayurvedic treatments, and my dad did as well, and my mom did as well. But like for my dad, it was like he ripped a muscle, tore a muscle out. But something happened, and we went through Ayurveda like for non-invasive method, and he ended up getting better. But Ayurveda also focuses on just like the imbalances in the body. You have like the 3 doshas, which are like Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata is like air and space, Pitta is fire and water, Kapha is earth and water. And these are the 4. These are the elements that we have, right? Air, fire, water, earth, and space. But space is space. But it's also like Ayurveda kind of focuses on balancing the imbalances in your body and healing you through that.
That's actually really interesting because I actually just went to the Ayurvedic hospital today, I was talking to the doctor and we were talking about the doshas actually, and so basically my hair has been falling out a lot, and someone's balding. The hairline is receding, but and also no, but also like she was telling me how that kind of relates to the Pitta dosha, and how there's too much like fire or like what's it called, like heat in my body, and that's kind of causing the hair to fall out. But also how and she actually related it to like not personality, but like the way that I would act, and it's actually really true. Is like, because if your pitta dosha is like higher in comparison to the rest of them in your body, you are generally like more irritable and like more prone to like getting angry and stuff like that, which kind of
Yeah, I guess that's
and that kind of connects to the yellow bile, or like the choleric personality trait that was defined in like the more like Western thing. But yeah, I just thought that was like interesting that it's like so integrated still.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, I actually searched up. I like when I was reading the thing, I searched up Ayurveda and personality, and that's when they mentioned the three doshas. And like, so last year I went to like an Ayurvedic resort, and in which I did like the whole Ayurvedic process, right? Like 14 days or so. And there was this one of the days they had like a sort of like information session about the three doshas, and he really talked about how like Ayurveda doesn't restrict you from eating certain foods. Like, you know how religiously Hindus won't eat beef, but Ayurveda is not like a Hindu kind of thing. It's like it's a practice, it's a medical practice in India, but it's not a Hindu related one. And he was just like, you're not limited to not eating meat, but that doesn't mean that you only eat meat. Like, you're not limited. There's no diet, but it's just about balancing the imbalances. And so I looked into the Ayurveda and personality thing, and basically it said like, if your vata is higher, your pitta is higher, your kapha is higher, or one of them is really low, then you're going to see that whatever personality trait that they're related to, you're not going to see that really. If it's too high, then you're going to see that very prominently. But if it's not as high as the other ones, or like very low in general, then you're not going to see it at all.
Right.
So I guess like if your pitta is really low, you won't feel anger.
Yeah.
But also that doesn't mean it's good to have your pitta low, because like anger is essentially like it is essential to our living.
Yeah.
Like,
no. Sure.
Evolutionary, we developed anger for a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that. There's a lot you can talk about, like personality, health, and culture.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of talking about that, like modern nutrition science and how that affects like Ayurveda and like the like humoral theory, for example, which is like the kind of Western version of that. I don't know. But yeah, so by the 19th century, humoral theory was more replaced by like nutritional science, and like kind of backed more by scientific theory and more credible, I guess. And it's at this point that physiognomy, which we talked about earlier as the word of the day, which is again judging character from appearance, this is the time where that also lost credibility, and people started focusing a lot more on personality tests and defining people's characters, or defining people in general as entities by their personalities. And so from here onwards, you would think that like humoral theory was fully replaced, right, by modern nutritional science, but if you kind of look at the chronological progression of personality tests in the West, you can kind of see how instead of replaced, it was kind of just like tweaked and developed, like further developed. So between the early 20th century and modern day, like there was many scientists and psychologists like Hans Eysenck and Colin de Jong that proposed a lot more like scientifically backed theories, such as de Jong's meta traits, which are basically using the two traits of stability and plasticity to classify somebody's personality and like different combinations of that. So like low plasticity and high stability, or equal levels of both, or opposite of that. But and then there was also now a bunch of personality tests like the Big Five, also known as the Ocean test, or like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, things like that. But funnily enough, they somehow all echo the original humoral theory from the 2nd century.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because the humoral theory is very holistic if you look at
True.
it. Like, it's not saying... Like, it's not saying, like, oh, just because you have extra... Like, you have more yellow bile flowing through your body, you're only going to be angry.
Yeah.
It's just relating yellow bile with anger. And, like, because it's such a holistic thing, it also makes it quite qualitative.
Yeah.
But modern nutrition science focuses, like, introduced macronutrients, micronutrients, and metabolic processes. So it's rather reductionist because it looks at health rather,
Yeah.
and the interactions of these different nutrients and processes.
Yeah.
So it's reductionist, but it makes it quantitative. So you can go like, oh, you're not getting your macronutrients. You need to up the intake, and you would feel better.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like, I guess, like, why humoral therapy is what? No, humoral theory.
Yeah.
Sorry. Why humoral theory like kind of echoes, because it's a very holistic thing. So the essential idea of it, you can kind of apply anywhere, which is balance.
Right.
But you can't maybe not necessarily take the exact idea that it is conveying. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that's actually interesting, like how you're mentioning that humoral theory is so holistic and kind of broad, that it could be developed like that throughout time. And that kind of reminded me of horoscopes, which is something that, like, I know our culture believes a lot in, but also, it's, I don't know, all the white girlies are doing yoga and all that stuff now.
Slightly controversial. Okay.
Yeah, no. Nothing wrong with that as long as it's appreciation, not appropriation. But I'm just saying, like, it's become like a lot more like widespread to like read horoscopes and things like that before you start like any big activities, or like, I don't know, at the beginning of every month. Like, I have a friend who does this like religiously. Like, at the beginning of every month, she will look up her horoscope for the month and like kind of plan the month based on that, which is like really interesting. And the more you like look into these horoscopes, they're so broad. It's like, if you think hard enough, like any horoscope given to you, you could kind of like fit that to your life.
Yeah, you could just apply that to
yeah. And I was kind of wondering, like, do you think these personality tests and like especially like hero theory, because it's like big four big like broad categories, like, do you think that's like, I don't know, do you think that's kind of related of like how like extremely broad it is, and you could just kind of like relate to either one, like any of them? Like, if someone credible enough tells you that you're like, oh, I don't know, choleric or whatever, melancholic.
Maybe to some extent. That's the thing, like, if someone comes up to me and goes like, you're choleric, I'll be like, yeah, maybe right now I am.
Yeah.
But then if you catch me at a different time, I'm probably not. So I guess in a way the humoral theory, like, if you're not, I don't know the exact like science behind the whole yellow bile, black bile, phlegm and blood.
Right.
Because I don't know, I didn't really look too deep into that, but if you like, I'm looking at the choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic, and sanguine part, like anger, depressive, calm, and cheerful.
Yeah.
If you catch me like right after, I don't know, like after I've had a really nice meal.
Yeah.
I would be very cheerful and calm.
Right.
You can say I'm phlegmatic or sanguine. But if I don't know, something didn't go my way and I'm just really mad about it, then I'll be more choleric.
Yeah.
Like, if someone comes up to me at a certain time and says, you are this, I would agree. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's true all the time. But then again, you can also, if you look at the causes of it, like yellow bile, the different biles and stuff, maybe there's more yellow bile when you're choleric. I don't know, like, don't quote me because I'm just making assumptions. But, like, just making assumptions based on the theory. Maybe there's more yellow bile at, like, coincidentally at the same time.
Yeah.
But then I don't think that's like a permanent thing.
Right.
Like, just because your body's flowing more yellow bile at a certain time, I don't think that's something that's just going to happen all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because also I'm looking at this like progression of like the personality test they had in like the olden days and like compared to now, and like a big
Right.
difference I'm seeing is that like back in the day, like the whole like humoral theory and talking about like the different kinds of biles and like phlegm and like blood and stuff, this is based on like being able to reverse it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not a permanent
Yeah.
like character trait.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like something that you could reverse or like change or like kind of
Change,
balance
yeah.
out. And the same with Ayurveda is that if you are like irritable, for example, like reduce your pitta dosha or something like based on like by eating something or doing specific things. But it's like the more you
Yeah.
look to like the newer ones, like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is the one. I mean, I haven't like taken any of these tests, but I think it's the one where it's like, oh, you're a INTJ something something, and like that's how you like
Yeah.
and like those things aren't really like given with the intention of like, oh, you can change this. It's like it. I don't know.
It's like this is you and that's just you.
Exactly, this is you and this is like who you are and you can't really change it. This is just kind of like defining you. And whereas like the older
Yeah.
ones were more based on like being able to change it or being able to like tweak yourself into something that's more likable to you or to those around you
Yeah.
or something like that. And also like the older ones were more based on biology, whereas the newer ones are more like based on psychology, which I think is something
Yeah.
also interesting.
Yeah, like cognition. No, yeah, that's what is okay, yeah. The Myers-Briggs personality test, or what's it, what, MBTI?
Yeah, MBTI.
Type indicator.
Yeah.
Okay, the thing is, it's very popular, but it's not actually valid.
Really?
Or it's not necessarily valid. Yeah. I was looking into it, right?
Mhm.
And it's based on like pseudoscience.
Yeah.
While okay, I took the test a couple of times before.
Right.
I always got like different ones,
Mm.
like different personalities. And what the test suggests is that this is you.
Right.
But that's not necessarily true because the me changes every single time.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of times I would get the same personality, but it's not like you catch me at a different time, I'm probably going to be a different person.
Right.
But me as a person, no, me as like an entity, I am me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I am Shrivati,
Yeah.
but my personality won't always stay consistent because personality is not something that stays
Yeah.
consistent. It changes a lot. And that's what I like about the older theories, the humoral theory and like Ayurveda. It's like it accounts for change.
Right.
While the science behind it can be questioned.
Yeah.
Because you can't really like I can't really go like, yeah, there's fire in you. Like you're not gonna like go inside me and then find fire.
Right.
And go, like,
Yeah.
But like it's just like the idea of fire kind of thing, you know what I mean?
No, for sure.
So that's another thing. Like, how can you know if something is true? And I guess that's what kind of takes away the validity from humoral theory and Ayurveda.
Yeah.
You don't have physical fire in you. You don't have physical. Well, I guess you do have some water. But like, you don't
Little
have
bit.
earth in you.
Yeah.
So you can't like go like, oh yeah, these three doshas are in you.
No, for sure.
But like the way that we would understand it. But when you look at modern science and like, you know, you see the interactions between these different elements and stuff. So then you're like, oh yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing it and you're able to comprehend what you're seeing
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
But if you're not able to do that, if you're not able to see, then you're just going to dismiss it. And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember why I brought all this up.
Well, while you think about that.
Oh yeah, because I change a lot.
yeah. Like, yeah. Like changing a lot,
Yeah.
and like you were talking about how the older ones are more like accounting for change, whereas
the new this test definitely doesn't account for change.
Yeah.
Maybe it does, but maybe the intention of it does, but it's like when you see it socially, you don't see a lot of people going like, oh yeah, sometimes I'm this, and sometimes I'm that. They're just going like, I'm this, Oprah's this, Obama's that.
Yeah.
It's like, because at the end of the test, they always like tell you which like like Shakespeare's was this one as well.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh my god, I'm just like Shakespeare. But yeah, but then also that also raises the question, like, if it's pseudoscience and it's not
Exactly.
necessarily valid,
Yeah.
why do we still do it?
Yep. Yes. Ooh, I like that.
That segue though. That segue.
No, but yeah, like
But
now that you mention it, it's like all of these different theories have been questioned by science, and technically none of them are actual science, because science is something that we in our modern society, or society even back then, used to like make things more credible or more believable. And technically all of these are pseudoscience. Technically they're not all backed by actual scientific theories, and rather are more social, like have more like social implications.
It's always dependent as to what you're accepting as evidence.
Right, exactly. Okay, I see the TOK, little sprinkle of TOK. Can you tell we're IB students?
I did 2 years of IB, and I know what I'm talking about. Evidence and that.
Yeah. No, but yeah, like time and time again these theories have been like disproved. Like we know that they're not like backed by science, yet humans have this enduring desire to classify ourselves into simplified like personality traits. And I think that's really interesting that like despite us knowing that these theories are not credible, we still keep trying. And I mean, the thing is, like, I've seen people like put this in their like LinkedIn bios, like, oh, I'm a INT, whatever, or like a ENT, this.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually, it's crazy. It's like people are like using this as an actual like way of like social like interactions, which is like crazy to me. But like, and we all, I mean, I'm sure these people know that this is not like scientifically backed, or I don't know, like, yeah, but like the point is that like we know, like from the humoral theory until like the multiple like types of tests we use today, like for example the MBTI, like pseudoscientific tests or whatever, we know that it's not scientifically backed or credible, and yet we still try to classify ourselves into personality types, which is really interesting to me.
No, yeah, I actually looked into this. Well, at least the MBTI test and why we still do it.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of identity when you're like, oh, I'm this kind of a person.
Right.
I enjoy this. I appreciate that. And also, you see at the end of the test, they always tell you like, oh, these are the kind of jobs that would work for you.
Yeah.
And so it kind of gives you like a direction. Not necessarily that, oh, you need to do, you literally need to be an engineer. It's not like that, but it's like
you would be better suited for it.
It gives you sort of direction. Yeah. And it also lets you focus on personal growth, because it does point out some flaws.
Yeah.
Or like what are socially considered as flaws.
Yeah.
Like, you're easily irritable. Okay, maybe I need to work on that.
Right.
It also provides a common language among us. Because it's like, you're this personality, I am too.
Yeah.
So it's like that sort of thing. And it also helps you understand how other people are, if you like classify them as a personality type.
Yeah.
And this this idea, like, this kind of relates to like groupism, right? Like just like grouping up into like smaller groups, and like, we're all like this, everyone else is different, kind of thing. Like making in groups and out groups. And I don't know where I was reading this. I think I was just reading this over the summer because I'm a reader.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I need to like actually start reading things about my course.
Yeah.
And groups have always like had like an evolutionary benefits, right? They provided evolutionary benefits because of humans being like Homo sapiens being able to communicate and work in groups. We were able to wipe out all other hominids.
Yeah.
Like the Neanderthals didn't have the kind of communication we did, and they weren't able to work together as well as we did. Because of that, we were able to wipe out a lot of hominids. Because if you, like, okay, fine, we migrated and stuff. Another thing that also resulted because of our ability to work in groups was megafaunal extinction, which my EE was on. In groups, we were able to take on much larger animals. We were able to kill much larger animals, survive together, trade resources. We were able to do a lot. And because of the evolutionary advantage that provided, we just ended up just always depending on groups. That's why, like, you'll see a lot of racism, because it's just like, we're a group, but you're not part of us, so you can't be with us, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, humans are social creatures, and so we do depend a lot on our social interactions for like everything, essentially, like evolution, whether, and then like the sense of belonging, like groupism. I think both of us kind of know a little bit about that, being TCKs.
TCKs, yes.
Yeah, like this, like, human, like, nature to like want to belong to some group. And yeah, I do think that's valid, but at the same time, I think, I don't know, I feel like personality tests oversimplify human character and the ways that we interact with each other.
We're way more complex than being assigned 4 letters and saying you're this kind of a person. Because I don't know, I feel like they do have some advantage of like personal growth and just sort of self-reflection, but to completely identify yourself with a certain personality type is unrealistic, because that's not your personality your entire life.
Right. Yeah.
Because if I compare myself now to how I was 10 years ago, you could say I do talk to more people. I'm a lot more careful, I guess. But it doesn't mean that me as an entity has changed. It just means that I've experienced some things that have affected my personality and ended up going like, right, obviously reacting in a certain way didn't work. Let's make some changes in the life. I just feel like a personality test, for me, I would take it to learn about myself in the present moment, but it's not something I will take with myself in the future and be like, I am this.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And yeah, kind of tying that in to the next section, basically, like, we know that personality tests have changed a lot over time, but human nature has remained the same, and relatively same. Like, in our in, what's it called, intrinsic, no, that's not the right word. Wait, okay, basically our, like, human nature to want to belong has always been there, like, since the time of, like, early evolution, and how you were talking about, like, hominins and, like, survival, things like that. And so human nature hasn't changed too much in its most, like, simple form. And so do you think that in its most simple form personality tests and the reason we do them has changed? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think we just always had the same, like, desire when we went into personality tests. Right. Because I can imagine someone from, like, 100 years ago doing a personality test. Yes. Like, maybe not in the way we do it, where we just go online and search up the test. Yeah. But, like, just, like, looking more into their personality, you just figure out the kind of person they are. Yeah. And, like, I feel like we've always just had this, like, idea that a personality test is just to help us identify ourselves. And to identify ourselves with a group. Whatever group works with us the best. Or whatever group we think, like, I don't know. Like, there could be just a group of people back in the day. Right. Back in someone else's day, going like, oh, I have a really high pit though. Yeah, me too. Let me join. Yeah. Kind of thing. Just like how now we'll go like, oh, I don't know any of the letter combinations of the MBTI test. Yeah. But yeah, one of them. Just going like, oh, I'm this personality, and the other person will be like, oh yeah, me too. Yeah. And then you just immediately hit it off there. It's just always like a social kind of identity. Yeah,
no, for sure. So that kind of brings us to the last segment of our podcast. We're wrapping up soon, I promise.
I'm really excited about.
But yeah, this is one of the ones that we were both really excited for. And it's where we talk about a paradox. So we're going to bring up a new paradox each time that kind of ties into the rest of the episode. And today's paradox is called the ship of Theseus. And I know Shred really likes this one, so do you want to
I
introduce
love
it?
this one. Yeah, but this paradox is like arguably one of my favorite ones because there's so much you can talk about. I love paradoxes in general,
Yeah.
but the ship of Theseus is a thought experiment that kind of raises questions about like um once was it oh yeah whether an object that has had all of its components replaced remains fundamentally the same object. So it starts with the Greek legend where as the name suggests, the ship of Theseus.
Mhm.
It would like Var, you explain it.
Okay.
You explain it.
Alright. Basically, the origins, like how Shred explained, it's kind of talking about how an object that has all its components replaced, like removed and then put back in like a different way, or maybe even the same one, does it remain fundamentally like the same object? And so it originates from a Greek legend, like an ancient Greek legend, which basically goes like this. So there was a ship wherein Theseus and the youth of Athens returned from Crete and had 30 oars, and was preserved by the Athenians down even to the time of Demetrius Phalereus, for they took away the old planks as they decayed, putting in new and stronger timber in their places. In so much that the ship became a standing example among the philosophers for the logical question of things that grow. One side holding that the ship remained the same, and the other contending that it was not the same ship. So essentially, they're talking about how the ship of Theseus, had all its planks replaced because they were decaying, and the question is whether this ship remains the same, the ship of Theseus, or it now has to be classified as a different ship because the planks are replaced by newer and stronger ones.
Yeah. No, yeah. I asked my mom about this as well.
Yeah.
I was like, I told her about the what's it called? The paradox. I told her about the paradox, and then I was like, "What do you think?
Yeah.
Is it still the ship of Theseus, or is it just new ship?"
Yeah.
And she said, and I agree with her on this one. Basically, the ship of Theseus is an identity.
Right.
It's not its physical form.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. It's not the physical form. So when you replace a plank or something, you're replacing it with the intention of it being the ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
You're going like, right, this new plank, it is
It's
going
for
into the
the
ship
ship.
of Theseus to like, it is part of ship
Yeah.
of Theseus. So then I would say that it is the ship of Theseus.
Mhm.
But I'm not 100% on this side because I do understand the opposing view that it's not physically the ship of Theseus.
Right.
And if all the parts of the ship are like replaced and everything about it is not the ship of the original ship of Theseus, how is it still the ship of Theseus?
Yeah. No. That I do agree with that, and I'm more with the first thing, like what your mom said, and that you agree with, is that the ship of Theseus was its identity, and there is like a physical object that carries that identity, and I think that can change. And I don't know, when I first read about this paradox, the first thing I thought of was transplants, and like for example,
Oh yeah, no.
like if there's somebody who has for context, I've been watching this show called Monk, and it's this detective show about this guy called Adrian Monk who has OCD, and he's like a really really good detective, but basically his wife passed away in a car accident, and she was an organ donor, and so he saw this woman on the street and didn't know why he was so like not attracted to her but so like intrigued by her, and so he like chased her down the city like the whole day until he realized at the end that she had his wife's eyes transplanted in her. So this woman, she's a completely different like random woman, but basically she had some eye issue and she needed an eye transplant, and Adrian Monk's wife was the person that they took the eyes from, and that's why he was so like intrigued by her. And so I thought that was really interesting because obviously this person had Trudy's eyes. Trudy's the wife, by the way. And still Monk thought of her to like carry on Trudy's legacy and through her eyes, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, that kind of connects with this whole thing that it's like identity and not necessarily like physical objects that define something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. When I was thinking about the ship of Theseus,
Yeah.
because this is something like I always think about,
Right, all your free time.
But whenever it comes up in my mind, I'm just like, you can always split identity into two things: formal identity and group identity. So your formal identity is like me, like, okay, my formal identity is Srividya from India, right? There's like the objective truth about me. You can change parts of me, but I will still be Srividya from India. But my group identity, I guess that relates to personality. So that will change.
Right.
So with you, I could be like, well, I don't know how my personality changes. That's the issue. Okay, fine. Hypothetically speaking,
Right.
If I'm calmer with you, I'll be, oh yeah, Srividya, the person who's calm.
Right.
But with someone else who really gets on my nerves a lot, they'll be like Srividya, who's really irritable.
Yeah.
And that would just end up being the, like, my group identity would differ.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that kind of, like, to tie this whole paradox discussion back to the case study that we were talking about, I think we can kind of end the podcast with this question. So, if all the biological assumptions of humoral theory have been replaced, but the structure still lives on in modern psychology, is it still the same theory, or is it something entirely new?
Deep.
But, yeah, no, so in my opinion, I think at its simplest form, it is still the same theory. Well, yes, there are changes, but essentially the purpose and I guess it is disputable because the original humoral theory was a lot more like biological based compared to the newer tests we have, but I think at its heart it remains the same because of its purpose. But yeah, what do you think?
You know how earlier about the paradox I was like, the ship is still the ship.
Right.
My answer to this question is completely different. It is not that. It's just like, because, okay, that's the thing. Like, you can call me a hypocrite, but I'll just have a different thing like for this. Because it's like, that reminds me of, like, science in general. A lot of theories we have today kind of built up on ones we've had before. Like, the atom, we always were like, yeah, that's the smallest unit.
Yeah.
And then the development of the atomic model, and now we have electrons, neutrons, protons, right?
Right.
So it's just like, you're not looking at electrons, neutrons, and protons and calling that, I don't know, the Rutherford model or something. That is our current model, and that's not one of the older ones.
Right.
So you're not, like, while it was built up on it, you're not identifying it by what it used to be. So it's just like, I guess socially as well, that's just the case. And I would say, like, you can say that it was inspiration that the humoral therapy, I don't know why I keep saying therapy. Humoral theory, it does have, like, its essence does carry on, but I would not say it's the same theory. I would say it's a completely new one.
That's really interesting. I do agree to some extent. But, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. I guess you just gotta look at context all the time. That's the issue. Because you can never answer something very objectively. You can always answer it with context.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. Thought that was a very interesting episode. I really enjoyed researching for that and this discussion. I learned a lot about what I think and about what you think and about just things in general based on the way that we think. But yeah.
What I think, you think, and we think.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I feel like the new structure of our podcast is really working out because
Agree.
We used to struggle to get it to half an hour, and now we're like close to 1 hour, and we're just like, oh, there's still more to discuss, but we can't.
Yeah. No, the
Yeah.
only reason I think I'm ending this episode a little bit early is because I've had a lot of technical difficulties throughout this episode, which I think you'll hear with the audio changes. But
While I was just talking about the whole like extinction thing, I just saw you just say, oh, and then I was confused, and then I realized your AirPods died.
yeah, no, they
Is
didn't
that
even
the
die. I don't know what happened. They just stopped working. But yeah, I
Okay.
switched, and then it started raining. And you know what? Just send me your audio. I'll edit this one.
But it was a good episode. It was fun. I liked it.
I
a
really
lot.
enjoyed.
But yeah, definitely this will be a consistent thing every other week on Sundays. Watch out for a
100%.
hominids upload.
Yeah.
And next week, come back to talk about something different.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, we don't know just yet, but we're gonna figure it out.
Stay tuned
Eventually.
to find out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Have a good one. See you next time.
An excellent one, and
Yeah. Okay,
We'll
everyone
see.
else me on that one.
we'll see you next
next
we'll
week.
see you the week after.
Yeah.
On a Sunday.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Goodbye,
see ya.
guys.